One of my favourite movies of all time is also one that I've been putting off reviewing. There are a couple of movies that I just don't think I have the ability to accurately describe my feelings on, and one of those movies is Her. Her is a movie that I'm probably going to continue revisiting at various stages in my life because the viewer's maturity is something that plays heavily into how the film is interpreted. The reason I say this is one of the things I like most about the film. Her is not trying to be an accurate representation of relationships and love, it's trying to be an accurate representation of what that feels like. As such, when your interpretation of the feeling of love changes, your interpretation of the movie does as well, and the way this is implemented through story and visuals is perfect, and it's what makes the movie so emotionally intense. Her is my favorite example of a movie that has a variety of layers to its story. When you first watch the movie, you'll be engaged with the relationship of Samantha and Theodore and watch how that plays out. But the second and third times, you'll notice all the new details that show you entirely new stories playing out with both of these characters. Through this, Her presents a love story that feels like the good parts of a relationship, but doesn't shy away from what can go wrong. The stark contrast between these two kinds of events, given that one is so dreamlike and so surreal, is something that adds an extra layer of emotion to the story. Obviously, the most well-known thing about this film is that it's based on a relationship between an artificial intelligence and a human. Personally, I find that this serves a larger overall purpose in the story, but I'll get to that in a second. First, I just want to say how intelligently the screenplay weaves discussion about emotion in an AI into the film so seamlessly. There are some very explicit discussions about it, but most of these are so natural because of the way they're supplemented by smaller details in the way Samantha, the AI, reacts to what's happening around her. So when I say that the relationship between Samantha and Theodore serves a greater purpose, I mean that the way they interact and what they talk about reveals a large amount about Theodore's character and Samantha's character. And more specific to Theodore, it shows how he feels now, how he's felt in the past with his ex-wife, about how he feels he could do better now and what could have been done better in the past. The way the film's discussion of AI is related to Theodore and his feelings is really clever, and noticing it has changed the movie for me entirely. I'm not going to go into detail about how I feel this occurs, because it's something that I think is best left to interpretation. My friend and I have adored this movie for a long time now, and we both have different opinions on how things in the film impact what the story is trying to say. The fact that both our interpretations are valid and can be backed up by everything that happens in the film is a testament to not only how well it's written and structured, but also how well its characters are used and how much thought was put into the purpose that they serve overall. In saying something like that, I think it's also important to understand that Her isn't just exploring romantic relationships, but platonic relationships as well. Theodore and Amy are the perfect example of this. Their friendship is just as important to the film as any of the romantic relationships, and I really like that this is something that features in the movie. I think it's a really cool way of commenting on how we often see romantic relationships as more of an investment and thus are more scared that they won't last, or are too afraid to make it last as a contingency for it not being the right thing to do. And Amy's friendship with Theodore is an example of what I mean by each of the characters serving a purpose in the story. Besides that, everything just feels so natural. Like I was saying before about Her serving as a representation of how you imagine a relationship to be, I think this is part of what stops the film from ever feeling artificial. Even characters that only feature in the film for like 15 minutes feel like they're acting like real people. Conversations don't feel like they have a set beginning and end that was written in a script, because both people react to each other and build off what the other person is saying. And it's something that applies to everything in the movie, and something that keeps the film grounded despite how idealistic its relationships may seem. In addition to this, the most natural part about Her's characters is the way they withhold information, deflect questions they don't want to answer, and attempt to solve problems that aren't there because they overthought what was happening. The fact that Samantha is an artificial intelligence adds a layer to the film that makes these situations more creative and original than they would normally be. The reason for this is, first, the fact that the problems that she creates when she or Theodore overthink a situation are totally different to what would ordinarily be in a romance movie, and second, Samantha being an AI creates a learning curve for her regarding her emotions and her interpretation of other people's emotions. Her is a very emotionally heavy and intimate movie, and the characters being as natural as they are is probably what makes it so engaging. And in saying that, the way Her is made, its music, its cinematography, its colors, is perfect. The atmosphere of this movie is as intimate as anything I've ever seen. Honestly, I can tell you the two cuts that I don't like in this movie. Every shot is amazing, all the music is amazing, everything is just brilliant. And for the cinematography, not only are the shots gorgeous, but the way they isolate Theodore against a background of flickering city lights creates such a heavy focus on his face and his expression. The shallow depth of field makes everything look soft, and the color palette is warm. I don't really know what else to say other than Her is probably the only movie I've ever seen that I would describe as cozy. That's not to say that it feels cozy all the time, because there are moments where the film needs to be sad, and it makes perfect use of the way the rest of the film looks to enhance this feeling of sadness. There are moments where her contrasts Theodore's life now with his memories of the past, and the way these two are connected by the way they're cut together and combined with the way that they're shot makes them so emotional. They retain the same warm intimacy as the rest of the film, but the context of it makes it so much more impactful. The other thing is the role that sound plays in these sequences. When Theodore is daydreaming about the past, it's always kept in the present by a lack of music and the persistence of normal sound, and it makes them feel really detached from reality in a really heartbreaking way. However, when music is playing in the film, its use supplements what's already happening. Rather than relying on music to foster a certain attitude in the audience, Her waits until the scene has set a tone and then uses the music to enhance this after the fact. If something emotional is happening, the movie will wait until the scene is at its peak of emotion, for example when someone starts crying or when the scene's most important detail has been revealed before the music starts playing. It means that the score never feels forceful and it's always natural. Added to this is the fact that playing only at the height of a scene makes it feel special. Whenever you feel like something is as emotional as it can get, the music starts playing and it just pushes you over the edge. And speaking of which, the film's score is not just amazing movie music, it's just amazing music. I can't tell you how many times I've put it on while on my way home on the train, just staring at the city, or even just looking up at my ceiling in my bedroom. And me saying what I'm about to say is kinda strange, because I'm 18 and serious relationships and love aren't something I know anything about, but the score for Her just feels like everything you imagine those things would be like. I've heard descriptions of why it sounds like that, but all I can say with my knowledge of music is that it just sounds right. It accompanies the film and its atmosphere and its themes perfectly. Her is one of a couple of movies that I'm going through the process of reviewing to test myself. It seemed like such a daunting task to review a movie that I've loved for so long and that is doing so much right. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with my ability to articulate everything I love about this movie, but I challenged myself to try for this video.
Her by Spike Jonze. What rating do you think it gets? You dingus man. Her gets a. Does it get any better than this amazing, brilliant masterpiece? Amazing, best thing. One of the. I mean, there are a couple of things that are like perfect in my. There are like 7 movies that I think are like perfect out of 10, and this is one of them. So I'm not gonna say it's the GOAT. Well, I mean, it is the GOAT, but then there are 6 other movies that I also think share the title of GOAT, because, you know, there's a bar, and you can't cross that bar because it's the perfect bar, and this definitely gets it.